What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. As you can see, I'm out here repping the Japanese culture. In today's video, I'm gonna get started on this big project. You've seen it on my channel before. You can go follow him on Instagram and watch the build series as he posts stuff along the way, but you can follow me here and watch the whole thing. So in this video, we're gonna take his car from a stock. It's a stock 98 ER34. All he has currently are just suspension, brakes, body kit, aero kit, front mount intercooler. Performance wise, he's running stock boost, stock everything. So we're gonna pull that motor out, do some stuff to it, and you'll see the whole process. The intent is to get 600 or more by the time we're done. So we're gonna go in here, show you what all we're gonna do in this part one of the video. So let's go. Now the lighting isn't so great, but we're gonna take care of that in the next video. However, we got the car kind of taken down to bare minimum. Lights gone, bumper, hood. We're gonna take the wheels off, and it's sitting up on 4 jack stands, as you can see. In this video, however, the intent is to drain all the fluids. We're gonna drain the radiator fluid, drain the oil, drain the transmission, and then get under the car and disassemble everything from underneath. And we're gonna hopefully by the end of this video and today's video have the motor taken out and assemble the engine stand and put the engine on there. So that's the game plan today. It's going to be a lot of time lapse because there's really no sequence of how to take this out. We're just going to disassemble stuff that we know needs to be taken off and then get after it. Now, once we start putting everything together, we'll show you all the stuff we're doing with torque specs, so on and so forth. All right, so quick update. Everything over here is disconnected. Got the power steer line down here that's disconnected, and I moved the pump off to the side along with the AC compressor is disconnected from the car itself. And we're having a problem right now getting the wiring harness. It's super hard, so we had to remove the bracket that holds the ABS unit, and it's still kind of challenging. So we're gonna figure out what we have to do inside the car in order to pull the harness out. We also take the down pipe, and the mid pipe is disconnected. Everything over here is disconnected on the side, and then the radiator, fan, shroud, and fuel feed and fuel return line is disconnected. All the wiring harness is disconnected. So really all we have to do now is go inside to disconnect the shifter and then the drive shaft and maybe the back cat back of the exhaust, and we should be able to start pulling this bad boy out of here. Unlike most cars, like the Super for instance, once you come down here, you can see where the harness goes out through the firewall and go into the engine bay. With this one, it almost seemed like we have to remove all this blower for the AC, and then we'll have direct access to the hole just based on how it lines up. So we're probably gonna have to take a bunch of this stuff down. But we just came from underneath the car. I disconnected the drive shaft. It was a pain to get off, but I disconnected the drive shaft, completely removed it, drained the gearbox so there's no fluid in the gearbox, and disassembled the slave cylinder for the clutch. So that's hanging off to the side, and I've removed the transmission mount and both engine mount bolts. Those are loose. So now we're getting ready to attach the crane to pick the engine up. But unlike the 2J, there is no hook readily available on the RB25. However, you go to Boost Dock, you can get a set of brackets. Now when you get that, you have to remove, there's a little metal plate that was right here. I just removed it, and then it gives you access to this right here. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it off all the way down here, and then this will replace it all the way down in here, and then the chain will hook right here. That's on the intake side. On the exhaust side, if you come all the way back to the firewall, you see these 2 blank holes right here, and so the other bracket will bolt right here. We have the engine, transmission taken out the car, but as you can see, pretty clean job. Just a little bit of coolant spill right here, but besides that, everything came out pretty good. We damaged the heater core line But we're gonna do a replacement on these in the video anyway, so no biggie there. Yesterday we pulled the motor and transmission out the car, and that whole shebang right there, intercooler still hanging down some pipes, but we got that out. So now we have the engine and tranny sitting right here. The game plan in this episode is to separate the transmission, and then we're gonna build the engine stand, put the engine on it, and then take all the wiring off, because we have to send that out to the wiring specialties so they can customize the fittings and so on and so forth. And then we're gonna take off this big ugly behemoth of friggin' intake manifold and start stripping the motor down so we can get into the whole beautification piece. So that's what we're doing. Let's get into it. It's pretty straightforward. Just a bunch of 14 mil bolts. You got 1, 2, 3. You have the 2 that's holding the starter, and then you continue back here. 1 more here, 1 more here, and maybe there's 1 or 2 underneath the bottom. So it's just a bunch of 14 millimeter bolts, and then we'll go ahead and take this thing off. So finally got the gearbox separated. It was a mission. Boy, I'm sweating. So I'm gonna show you so you don't have the same problem I encountered. All right, so first of all, with this gearbox and clutch setup, it's a pull type. So what that means is the slave cylinder sits right here, and whenever you press the pedal in the car, it pushes this way. It pushes that way. Now when you push this way, I'll show you in here what happens. When you push on the pedal and the slave cylinder pushes, it pulls. So it's pulling on the fork and the bearing, which essentially, come around this way, is gonna pull on the diaphragm right here on the pressure plate. So it's a pull style clutch. Now, the reason we were having such a hard time removing it, this bearing, as you can see, has a little bezeled edge right here. It's designed to lock in place with the pressure plate, which has this little, has this right here, and it pops out. So when this is engaged with that, they're locked together. In order to remove and separate this from that, to separate the gearbox, I had to reach in through the service hole right here and use this or a long screwdriver, and you push this in and it pops that in, and then you pry between. Imagine this was up against the car, and then you're gonna pry in between right here, between the bearing, the actual bearing that stays on the fork, and this part, and pop it off. And once you pop it off, you'll know, because then you can freely move this fork right here, because they're no longer locked in place. And then you could just slide the gearbox off. It took me a minute to figure it out, because the Toyota clutch has a different setup, where on the pressure plate, it has a hub and the fork sits around it. And all you have to do on the Toyota, either the R154 or the Getrag 160 or 161, you just pull the fork off, and it's that easy. This one is a little more technical, and it took some time to figure it out. But there you go. These are super tight. In order to stop the crank from turning when we try to break these loose with the breaker bar and a big 19 mil socket, we have another part from Boost Dock. And what we're going to do, we're going to set it right here, and what it's going to do is going to lock the flywheel in place and prevent it from moving. Now if you just try to put it up against the engine, it's not going to do anything, because it's going to fall right behind it. So there's a spacer. So you're going to put the spacer between the piece and the metal plate, and then put the bolt in. Now I can break these loose, and the crank slash flywheel will stay in place. This is going to come in clutch to remove or crack the harmonic bolt in the front. Essentially, that is what this is for, is to undo the big bolt on the harmonic balancer. I don't know what size it is, maybe like a 26 or a 24. All right, so it's the next day because we had to get some extra tools. However, right here, this bolt is a 27 mil. So we already got it broken loose. So now that we've done that, we're gonna come back here and we're gonna take off those 6 19 mil bolts that is currently holding the flywheel onto the car. we have the harness completely taken out, removed from the car in one piece. It's kind of cool how Nissan does it. It's one harness all the way from the kick panel, passenger side. It goes to the wiper, it goes to the ABS module, it goes to everything. Just one big harness all together, and it wraps around the engine. However, Sliq has to send that into the wiring company that's doing his harness so they can do some stuff, wizardry, and make it work. Secondly, as you can see, we stripped the motor of the turbo system. The intake system is under here. All the bits and pieces that goes with it. So the only thing left to do is break this piece off, take the valve covers, separate the head, and then we're into the cleaning phase. But as far as removing the stuff from the car, stripping the engine down, all we have right now is a long block. The alternator is on there, yeah, whatever. But we have a long block situation, so that's where we're at. So we're gonna close this video out, and in part 2, we'll start separating the engine, and then we'll get into what's coming after that, because we're gonna do some big changes, some fresh upgrades, and that's it. So part 1 of making a 600 horsepower RB25, it's a wrap. I'm out.